The stars flickered against the dark void of space as Captain Emily Roberts stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant. Her hands gripped the command rail tightly, knuckles white with tension. The massive view screen before her showed 5 alien ships approaching, their first official diplomatic meeting with the Zarkax Confederation. "Distance to contact point?" she asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. 20,000 kilometers in closing, Captain," replied Lieutenant Hayes from her station. The young officer's fingers danced across her console, monitoring all incoming data. The Defiant was humanity's pride, a masterpiece of engineering and the most advanced warship ever built. Yet today, it was serving as a diplomatic vessel, leading a small fleet of 3 colony ships. The colonial governors had insisted on being present for this historic first contact. "Opening hailing frequencies," announced Communications Officer Pete Wilson. "The Zarkax flagship is responding." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the alien commander. The Zarkax looked almost reptilian, with scaled skin and multiple eye ridges. Its translator produced a deep, resonant voice. "Captain Roberts of Earth Vessel, we welcome you to this historic meeting," the alien said, its mouth moving out of sync with the translated words. Emily nodded respectfully. "Ambassador, we're honored to begin these diplomatic relations. Our colonial representatives are eager to discuss trade and cultural exchange." The alien's expression shifted slightly, something that made the hairs on the back of Emily's neck stand up. In her 15 years of service, she learned to trust her instincts. "Lieutenant Hayes," she whispered, "run a full scan of their weapons systems." Before Hayes could respond, the alien ambassador's image smiled, a terrible, knowing expression. "Captain Roberts, we have studied your species for some time now. We've watched your wars, your conflicts, your aggressive expansion." Emily's heart stopped. This wasn't going according to protocol. "Ambassador, I assure you that humanity comes in peace. Our colonies are peaceful settlements." "You misunderstand, Captain." The alien cut her off. "This is not a negotiation. Your species has been judged. You are too evolutionarily aggressive to be allowed to exist in the greater galaxy." Everything happened at once. The alien ship's weapons powered up simultaneously. Emily's training kicked in instantly. Red alert. "All hands to battle stations." She yelled at maximum. But she was too late for the colony ships. 3 massive energy beams lashed out from the Zarkax vessels, each striking the colonial vessel. The ships, filled with thousands of civilians, didn't stand a chance. They erupted into balls of fire and debris, their screams cut short in the vacuum of space. "No!" Emily shouted, watching helplessly as over 15,000 lives were snuffed out in seconds. The Defiant rocked violently as enemy fire impacted their shields. Engineer David Cooper's voice came over the comm. "Shields at 60% and dropping. They've got weapons we've never seen before." Emily's shock turned to cold fury. Evasive maneuvers. "Return fire with all main batteries. Get us out of their crossfire." The Defiant moved like a dancer despite its size, its advanced engines responding instantly to the helm's commands. The ship's conventional weapons blazed, but the alien shields barely flickered under the assault. "They're targeting our engine core," Hayes shouted. 2 more ships coming in from the far side of the system. Emily's mind raced. They couldn't win this fight, not against 7 advanced alien warships, but they could survive. They had to survive to warn Earth. "Cooper, give me everything you've got to the engines. Helm, plot a course through their formation. We're going to punch through at full speed." The Defiant surged forward, its advanced hull absorbing hit after hit. Warning klaxons blared as systems began to fail across the ship. "Shields at 15%. Hayes reported, her voice tense but professional. "Brace for impact." Emily ordered as they approached the enemy formation. The Defiant shuddered violently as it took direct hits, but its reinforced hull held together. The ship burst through the enemy formation at maximum speed, its engines straining against their limits. The Zarkak ships tried to pursue, but the Defiant's superior engines slowly pulled them away from their attackers. Once they were clear, Emily looked at the tactical display, showing the debris field that had once been 3 colony ships. Her voice was ice-cold as she addressed her crew. Log this day. The Zarkak's Confederation has committed an act of war against humanity. They murdered 15,000 innocent civilians without warning or provocation. She paused, her grip tightening on the rail. And we're the only ones left to make them pay for it. As the Defiant raced toward Earth to warn humanity of the new threat, none of its crew knew that deep within the ship's classified systems, ancient alien technology was beginning to wake up. Technology that would soon make the Zarkaks regret their judgment of humanity's aggressive nature. Engineer David Cooper hadn't slept in 36 hours. His eyes burned as he stared at the strange readings coming from deep within the Defiant systems. The ship was running away from Zarkak space at maximum speed, but something wasn't right. The power readings made no sense. "Computer," he called out, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Run another diagnostic on Section F7. Access denied." The ship's AI responded in an unusually firm tone. "Section F7 requires alpha-level clearance." David frowned. He was the chief engineer. He was supposed to have access to every part of the ship. He pulled up his terminal and began typing rapidly. "Warning. Unauthorized access attempt detected," the AI announced. "Override Cooper Delta 9. David snapped. "This is an emergency situation. We need all systems checked after that battle." There was a pause, longer than usual for the AI. Then, unexpectedly, a hidden panel in the engineering bay slid open with a soft hiss. "New situation parameters accepted," the AI said. "Project Prometheus files unlocked. Welcome, Engineer Cooper." David's jaw dropped as holographic displays suddenly filled the air around him. They showed designs and weapon systems he'd never seen before. Impossible things. Technologies that shouldn't exist. Lieutenant Jennifer Hayes chose that moment to walk into engineering. "Cooper, the captain wants a report on. What is all this?" David couldn't take his eyes off the displays. I think I just found out what the Defiant really is." Together, they stared at the schematics floating in the air. The ship they thought they knew was just a shell. Hidden beneath its hull were weapons systems based on technology recovered from a crashed alien ship in Nevada decades ago. "Get the captain," David said quietly. "She needs to see this." 20 minutes later, Captain Roberts stood in engineering with her senior staff. The holographic displays showed weapon systems that defied their understanding of physics. "The quantum void cannon," David explained, pointing to one particular schematic. "It doesn't just destroy targets. It erases them from existence." The technology was reverse-engineered from the Nevada crash site, but it was too dangerous to test. Captain Roberts studied the displays with intense focus. "Why are we only learning about this now?" The ship's AI answered. "Project Prometheus protocols required specific conditions for activation. An extinction-level threat to humanity has now been confirmed. Full weapons systems are available." "The ship," Jennifer Hayes whispered, "it's been watching us. Learning. Waiting." David nodded. "The regular weapons we've been using are just the surface. The Defiant is a safeguard, Captain, built in secret to protect Earth if we ever met something like the Zarkaks." "Can you get these systems online?" Captain Roberts asked. David ran his hands through his messy hair. "Yes, but, Captain, these weapons, they're beyond anything we've ever handled. One mistake could tear a hole in space itself." "Better a hole in space than the extinction of humanity," she replied firmly. "How long?" 24 hours to bring the main systems online. The quantum void cannon will take longer. We need to route power through new pathways that just appeared in the ship's layout." Captain Roberts straightened her uniform. "Get it done. The Zarkaks think we're running away. They don't know we're about to show them humanity's real teeth." Over the next day, the engineering team worked nonstop. David dove deep into the ship's hidden systems, amazed by what he found. The AI helped, revealing more secrets with each passing hour. Jennifer Hayes worked alongside him, decoding encrypted files about Project Prometheus. The story they told was incredible. Decades of secret research, alien technology beyond their comprehension, and a ship built to be humanity's last line of defense. As David connected the final power coupling to the quantum void systems, he felt the ship vibrate differently. The AI's voice seemed to carry a new tone, almost eager. All systems integrated. Quantum void weapon charged to 20% capacity, capability. Total atomic dissolution of target vessels. Captain Roberts' voice came over the comm. Status report, Cooper. David looked at the pulsing power readings, now far beyond anything their normal systems could produce. It's ready, Captain. The Defiant just became the most powerful warship in known space. He didn't add what the classified files had revealed. The ship's AI was based on brain scans of its first captain, who had died protecting Earth in a classified incident decades ago. The Defiant wasn't just a warship. It was humanity's legacy, built to ensure their survival at any cost. The ship hummed with new power as its true nature awakened. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the Zarkax were about to learn why it was a mistake to push humanity into a corner. The Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the outer edges of the Mason colony system. Captain Roberts stood at her command station, hoping they weren't too late. The Zarkax had already attacked 3 colonies. This one might be next. Scan for any human signals, she ordered. They might be hiding. For 5 tense minutes, the bridge crew waited. Then Lieutenant Hayes' console lit up. Captain, I'm picking up a weak signal. It's coming from the 3rd moon. It's a human emergency beacon. Take us in quietly, Captain Roberts commanded. They might not be alone. As they approached the moon, they spotted 2 Zarkax patrol ships circling the colony. The alien vessels hadn't noticed them yet. The Defiant's new stealth systems were working perfectly. Multiple life signs detected in the moon's mining tunnels, Hayes reported. It's our people, Captain. They're alive. Commander Brian Wilson stepped forward from his tactical station. Captain, let me lead a ground team. We can slip past those patrols and reach the survivors. Emily nodded. Do it, but stay hidden. We don't want to fight until we get our people out. Within 30 minutes, Commander Wilson led 3 shuttles toward the moon's surface. They used the mining tunnels for cover, landing deep inside the network of caves. As they stepped out, they found themselves facing a group of armed colonists. Hold your fire. A woman's voice called out. They're human. Colonel Susan Martinez stepped forward, lowering her rifle. She looked tired but determined. Commander Wilson, is that really you? Brian smiled. The Defiant made it out. We're here to help. Susan's face showed relief for just a moment before turning serious again. We have over 300 survivors down here, but there are thousands more hiding in other systems. The Zarkax, they're hunting us like animals. Not anymore, Brian replied. Things have changed. The Defiant has weapons that can stop them. But first, we need to get your people to safety. Over the next few hours, they worked quickly and quietly. The survivors gathered their belongings while Brian's team set up quantum communicators, new devices that the Defiant's AI had helped them build. These can't be traced or jammed, Brian explained to Susan. We're building a network. Every human colony that's still out there, we'll find them, connect them, and fight back together. Suddenly, alarms blared through the tunnels. Lieutenant Hayes' voice came through the comm. Commander, the Zarkax patrols are starting a search pattern. They must have detected something. Time to move, Brian ordered. Everyone to the shuttles. Now. The evacuation turned into a race against time. Families rushed through the tunnels while soldiers kept watch. Above them, the Zarkax ships moved closer to their hiding place. Just as the last shuttle was loading, a Zarkax ground team appeared at one of the tunnel entrances. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness. Get them out of here, Susan shouted, returning fire with her team. We'll hold them off. Brian grabbed her arm. No, the Defiant needs leaders like you. Your people need you. Come on. The firefight intensified as they ran for the last shuttle. 2 of Susan's soldiers fell, but their sacrifice bought enough time for everyone else to escape. As the shuttles raced back to the Defiant, the Zarkak's patrol ships finally spotted them. They turned to attack, but they were too late. The Defiant decloaked right behind them. One shot from its conventional weapons was all it took. Both patrol ships exploded into clouds of debris. Back on the Defiant's bridge, Captain Roberts watched as the last shuttle docked safely. 300 more survivors saved. But her expression remained grim as she looked at the galaxy map showing known human colonies. How many quantum communicators did we deploy? She asked. 5 so far, Hayes answered. We're getting signals from other survivors. They're scattered, hiding, but they're out there. Susan Martinez stepped onto the bridge, still dusty from the battle. My people say there are at least 20 colonies that might have survived the first attacks. If we can reach them, we will, Emily said firmly. The Defiant isn't just a warship anymore. It's our mobile command center. Our people need hope, and we're going to give it to them. The ship's AI spoke up, its voice echoing through the bridge. All survivors logged. Quantum network expanding. Strategic analysis suggests 68% probability of successful resistance with current resources. Emily smiled for the first time in days. The Zarkaks think they broke us apart. Instead, they're forcing us to come together. And when we're ready, she looked at the weapons display, showing the quantum void cannon's power levels. When we're ready, they'll learn what humanity can really do. The Defiant turned away from the moon, cloaking itself once more. Somewhere out there, more survivors were waiting. The resistance was just beginning. Red alert klaxons blared throughout the Defiant. Captain Emily Roberts gripped her command chair as she stared at the tactical display. 20 Zarkaks warships had caught up with them near the Arcturus system. They found us, Lieutenant Hayes reported, her voice tense. They're blocking our escape routes. Chief Weapons Officer Kevin Parker stood at his station, his hands hovering over the controls of the quantum void cannon. They had never used it before. They hadn't dared to. Captain, Kevin said quietly, it's time. Emily looked at the 300 refugees they'd rescued, now crowded into the ship's cargo bays. She thought of the 15,000 colonists who died in the first attack. Her decision was made. All hands, battle stations, she ordered. Mr. Parker, power up the quantum void weapon. Deep inside the ship, ancient alien technology hummed to life. The AI's voice echoed through the bridge. Warning, quantum void cannon charging. All crew should prepare for possible space-time distortions. The Zarkak ships moved closer, their weapons charging. Their commander's face appeared on the main screen, scaled features twisted in a smile. Surrender now, humans, it said. Your primitive vessel cannot hope to defeat our fleet. Emily stood up from her chair. You murdered thousands of our people. You thought we were too aggressive to exist in your galaxy. She nodded to Kevin. Let us show you why you should have been more afraid. Quantum void cannon at full power, Kevin announced. His fingers moved across the glowing controls. Target locked on their lidship. Fire. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a beam of pure darkness shot from the Defiant. It wasn't energy or matter. It was the absence of everything. The Zarkak's flagship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next there was only empty space. No debris, no radiation, nothing. Silence fell across the bridge. Even the AI seemed stunned. The remaining Zarkak ships froze in place. Their commander was gone, erased from reality itself. Before they could react, Kevin fired again. 3 more ships vanished into nothingness. The others tried to flee, but the Defiant was already moving, its enhanced engines carrying it through their formation. My God, Engineer Cooper whispered from his station. The weapon, it's not destroying them. It's removing them from existence, like they were never there at all. The Zarkak ships began to panic. Their neat formation broke apart as each captain tried to escape, but the Defiant hunted them down one by one. 7 ships erased, Kevin reported. His hands were shaking, but his voice stayed steady. 10, 13. The last Zarkak ships turned to fight, realizing they couldn't outrun the Defiant. Their weapons fired, but the ship's new shields held strong. Finish it, Emily ordered. The quantum void cannon fired 3 more times. When it was done, empty space was all that remained of the mighty Zarkak's fleet. All targets eliminated, Kevin said. He looked pale. 20 ships. Just gone. Emily walked to the front of the bridge, staring at the empty space where their enemies had been. Send the sensor readings to every human colony in our network. Show them what the Defiant can do. Within hours, the news spread through the quantum communications network. Survivors in hiding watched the recordings in amazement. The Zarkaks weren't invincible after all. But in her quiet moments, Emily worried about the power they now held. The quantum void weapon didn't just kill, it erased. No bodies to bury, no debris to mark the passing of lives. It was a terrible power. The ship's AI seemed to sense her thoughts. Captain, the weapon was designed with specific limitations. It cannot be used on populated planets or civilian targets. Even the Zarkaks must be given the chance to surrender. Emily nodded, grateful for that small mercy. Send a message to all human colonies. Tell them the Defiant is coming. Tell them it's time to fight back. As the ship prepared to jump to its next target, she looked at her crew. Kevin still stood at his station, coming to terms with the weapon he had used. Engineer Cooper studied the readings, trying to understand the technology they had unleashed. Lieutenant Hayes coordinated with the growing resistance network. They had changed the game. Now the Zarkaks would learn what it truly meant to face humanity's fury. The quantum void cannon hummed quietly, ready for its next use. The galaxy would never be the same. Dr. Amanda Foster hadn't left her lab on the Defiant for 3 days. Empty coffee cups littered her desk as she stared at the alien transmission patterns on her screen. After watching the quantum void cannon in action, several alien species had started sending encrypted messages to each other. Just a little longer, she muttered, running another decryption program. What are you saying to each other? The lab door slid open, and Captain Roberts walked in. Any progress, Doctor? Amanda sat up straight, pushing her messy hair back. Captain, I think I found something big. These messages, they're not just scared chatter. Some of these species are planning to break away from the Zarkaks. Emily leaned over to look at the screen. Can you prove it? Better. Amanda typed rapidly, bringing up new data. I cracked their main encryption code. The Zarkaks aren't as strong as they pretend to be. Their whole empire depends on their command structure. Take out their leaders, and everything falls apart. The captain's eyes lit up. Show me. Over the next hour, Amanda explained what she had found. The Zarkaks built their entire civilization like a pyramid. Every order had to come from the top. No lower commander could make important decisions without approval. That's why they panicked when we destroyed their flagship, Amanda said. Without their leader, they didn't know what to do. The ship's AI joined the conversation. Analysis confirms Dr. Foster's findings. The Zarkaks' leadership structure is their critical weakness. Just then, Lieutenant Hayes' voice came over the comm. Captain, we're receiving messages from 3 different alien species. They're asking for protection. Emily rushed to the bridge, Amanda following close behind. On the main screen, messages played from races they had never seen before. We wish to separate from the Zarkaks Confederation, one alien leader said. We have seen your power. We choose to stand with humanity. Another message followed. The Zarkaks forced us to join them. We will share their military positions if you guarantee our safety. The bridge crew watched in amazement as more messages arrived. The Zarkax's empire was starting to crack. "Dr. Foster," Emily said, "can you use their command codes to find their leadership targets?" Amanda nodded excitedly. "Already working on it. Their leaders hide in special bunkers, but they can't hide their communications. Each message leaves a trace we can follow." For the next few hours, the Defiance crew worked at full speed. Amanda and her team decoded message after message, building a map of Zarkax command centers. The alien species who joined them shared even more information. "Look at this," Amanda said, pointing to her screen. "Every major Zarkax fleet has a control center. Take out the center, and the fleet becomes useless. They've built their whole military on blind obedience." Captain Roberts gathered her senior staff to plan their attacks. "We'll hit their command centers one by one. Quick strikes with the quantum void cannon. No warnings, no chances for them to adapt." The Defiant moved silently through space, its new allies providing cover and distractions. Each strike was precise and devastating. Command bunkers vanished into nothing. Whole fleets fell into chaos as their leaders disappeared. After their fifth successful strike, they received an unexpected message. A Zarkax ship approached under a flag of truce. "Please," the Zarkax officer said, his usual pride gone. "Our sector has lost contact with High Command. We don't know what to do." Emily looked at her crew, then back at the screen. "Surrender. Tell others to surrender. This war can end now." More messages poured in as word spread. Ships, stations, and entire sectors began surrendering. The mighty Zarkax Confederation was falling apart from the inside. In her lab, Amanda watched the messages flow in. "It's amazing," she said to no one in particular. They were so focused on control, they forgot to teach their people how to think for themselves. Captain Roberts sent a message to all human colonies. "The tide has turned. The Zarkax are losing control. Every ship they lose, every ally that joins us, brings us closer to victory." The Defiant moved through space, no longer running or hiding. Other ships began to join them, human and alien vessels forming the first fleet of a new alliance. Their next target was already chosen: the Zarkax Central Command, the heart of the empire that had dared to judge humanity as too aggressive to exist. As Amanda decoded the final coordinates, she smiled. The Zarkax had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked humanity because they feared our strength. Now, that very strength was tearing their empire apart. Lieutenant Robert Chen watched from his fighter cockpit as hundreds of ships gathered around the Defiant. The fleet was massive, a mix of human survivors and alien allies, all united against the Zarkax. Today, they would attack the enemy homeworld. "All fighter squadrons, report in," he called over the comm. One by one, his pilots responded. Some were colony survivors, others were aliens who had joined their cause. Robert led them all now. On the Defiance Bridge, Captain Emily Roberts studied the battle plan. The Zarkax homeworld was heavily defended by their last loyal forces. This would be their hardest fight yet. "The quantum void cannon can't target the planet," she reminded her crew. "Too many civilian lives. We have to take out their orbital defenses the old-fashioned way." Chief Weapons Officer Kevin Parker nodded grimly. After using the quantum void weapon so many times, he understood its power and its limits. "Fleet weapons are charged, Captain. We're ready." "Lieutenant Chen," Emily called over the comm, "your fighters will lead the attack. Keep their defenders busy while we move the Defiant into position." "Understood, Captain," Robert replied. He switched to his squadron channel. "All fighters, form up. Remember your training. We're making history today." The battle began with a flash of engines. Hundreds of fighters shot forward, Robert's squadron in the lead. The space around the Zarkax homeworld lit up with weapons fire. "Enemy fighters incoming," one of Robert's pilots shouted. "At least 300. "Stay in formation," Robert ordered. "Remember, we just need to keep them busy." The fighter battle was chaos. Laser fire and explosions filled space as ships dodged and weaved. Robert's pilots fought with everything they had, protecting the larger ships as they moved forward. On the Defiant, Emily watched the battle unfold. "Move us through that gap," she ordered. "All weapons target their orbital platforms." The mighty ship pushed forward, its advanced shields absorbing heavy fire. Around it, Allied ships engaged the Zarkak's defenders. The space above the alien homeworld became a storm of light and destruction. "Captain," Lieutenant Hayes called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's their high command." The main screen lit up with the image of the Zarkak's supreme leader. Its scales were dark with age, its eyes cold and angry. "You dare attack our homeworld," it hissed. "We judged your species correctly. You are too dangerous to exist." Emily stood tall. "You attacked us first. You murdered our colonists. Now you'll learn what happens when humanity fights back." She cut off the transmission. "All ships, push forward. Lieutenant Chen, begin your attack runs on their defense stations." Robert led his fighters in swift, deadly strikes. One by one, the orbital defenses began to fall. But the Zarkaks weren't done yet. "Massive energy spike," Engineer Cooper shouted. "They're powering up some kind of super weapon." A huge beam of energy shot from the planet's surface, cutting through several Allied ships. The Zarkaks weren't going to surrender without a fight. "Evasive maneuvers," Emily ordered. "Cooper, can we use the quantum void cannon on that weapon?" Cooper checked his readings quickly. "Yes, it's automated. No civilian casualties." "Parker, target that surface cannon. Fire when ready." The quantum void weapon fired once. The Zarkak's super weapon vanished, leaving a perfect circle in their defenses. "All fighters, clear the area." Robert ordered his squadron. The Defiant moved forward, its regular weapons blazing at the remaining defense platforms. The battle raged for hours. Ships exploded, fighters clashed, and slowly, piece by piece, the Zarkak's defenses crumbled. Finally, Lieutenant Hayes called out, "Captain, they're broadcasting the surrender. The High Command is standing down." The bridge crew cheered, but Emily raised her hand for silence. "Send them our terms. Unconditional surrender. All their forces must stand down immediately." One by one, the Zarkak ships stopped fighting. Robert watched from his fighter as enemy vessels powered down their weapons. They had done it. They had won. The Defiant moved into orbit around the Zarkak's homeworld, its quantum void cannon quiet but ready. Emily looked at her crew, tired, battle-worn, but proud. "Send word to all human colonies," she ordered. "The war is over. We've won." As celebration messages poured in from across the galaxy, Emily thought about everything that had led to this moment. The Zarkaks had thought humanity was too aggressive to exist in the galaxy. Instead, they had united the galaxy against themselves. Robert landed his fighter in the Defiance Bay, climbing out to cheers from his pilots. They had all fought for this day, human and alien alike. Now they would build something new from the ashes of war. 3 months after the surrender of the Zarkaks, Captain Emily Roberts stood in the Great Hall of the newly built Galactic Council. The room was filled with representatives from 30 different species, including several former Zarkaks allies, and even a few reformed Zarkaks themselves. The Defiant floated in orbit above, its quantum void cannon silent, but still serving as a reminder of humanity's power. But today wasn't about war. It was about peace. "The human delegation may speak," announced the council leader, an elder from one of their allied species. Emily stepped forward. She wore her formal uniform, polished and pressed. 3 months ago, the galaxy changed forever. The Zarkak's empire fell, and with it, their system of control and fear. Now we must build something better. Around the room, translation devices hummed as her words reached every species present. Dr. Amanda Foster sat nearby, the devices being her latest creation. a way for all species to truly understand each other. Humanity was judged too aggressive to exist in this galaxy, Emily continued. But what our enemies saw as aggression was really something else: the drive to survive, to protect our own, and ultimately, to unite against tyranny. Engineer Cooper and Lieutenant Hayes sat in the human section, watching proudly. The Defiant's crew had become heroes to both humans and aliens alike. "We propose a new council," Emily said, "where all species have an equal voice, where no race can judge another unworthy of existence, where we work together to explore and protect our galaxy." The council chamber buzzed with conversation. A Zarkax representative stood up, one of the younger ones who had supported peace. "We admit our errors," the Zarkax said. "We feared what we did not understand. Humanity taught us that strength lies not in control, but in unity." More representatives stood to speak. Species that had once been enemies now spoke of working together. Trade routes were planned, cultural exchanges arranged, and defense pacts formed. As Emily watched, she felt the ship's AI speaking through her small earpiece, a private channel only she could hear. "Captain," the AI said, "I have a final revelation to share. Would you like to know why I chose this moment?" Emily touched her ear slightly. "Tell me." "My original consciousness, the captain whose mind I was based on. She died protecting Earth from a secret Zarkax scout fleet 30 years ago. She gave her life to prevent them from finding Earth before humanity was ready. Today, you fulfilled her final mission." Emily's eyes widened at this news, but she kept her composure. The AI had been protecting humanity all along, waiting for the right moment, the right crew, the right captain. The council session continued as plans were made for the future. Lieutenant Robert Chen, representing the Joint Fighter Squadrons, proposed a combined defense force. Colonel Susan Martinez suggested a rapid response network to protect developing worlds. Kevin Parker, who had fired the quantum void cannon so many times, spoke about weapons control. The terrible weapon would be sealed away, used only if the galaxy faced another threat, like the Zarkax Empire. Near the end of the session, Emily made one final announcement. "The Defiant will serve as the flagship of our joint fleet, but its greatest weapon will be locked away. We won this war not just through power, but through unity. Let that be our strength going forward." The council chamber erupted in applause. As Emily looked around, she saw humans and aliens working together, planning together, building a future together. Later, on the Defiance bridge, she gathered her crew for a private moment. "The ship's AI just told me something," she said, and shared the story of the original captain. "We didn't just win a war. We fulfilled a 30-year mission to protect humanity and guide us to our place in the galaxy." Engineer Cooper smiled. "That's why the ship chose now to show us its true power. It was waiting for the right moment, when humanity would use that power not just for revenge, but for positive change." Lieutenant Hayes looked out at the stars. "So what's next, Captain?" Emily smiled. "We explore, we protect. We make sure no empire ever again tries to judge who deserves to exist and who doesn't." She touched the captain's chair, her chair, but also the chair of that first captain whose sacrifice had made all this possible. "The galaxy tried to break us," she said. "Instead, we remade the galaxy. Not through aggression, but through determination, unity, and hope." The Defiant's engines hummed softly as it orbited the council world. Its quantum void cannon was quiet, sealed away but ready if ever needed again. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians of a new age of peace and cooperation. The ship's AI spoke one last time. "Mission accomplished, Captain. Mission accomplished."